When fitting the shoulder Dynasplint system, remove everything from the box, including the wrist stabilizer, the mechanical arm, and the board with the blue cushion. At the bottom of the suitcase, you will find the necessary tools for the shoulder unit. Attach the mechanical arm of the Dynasplint to the board by sliding the thicker strut through the tunnel on the protractor plate. You will need to flip the lock switch upwards when sliding in. After the strut is all the way in, push the lock down. When initially assembling the shoulder Dynasplint, set the protractor plate to 90 degrees. Attach the handpiece. When setting the shoulder Dynasplint up for external rotation, you will need to internally rotate the blue cylinder to 45 degrees. After internally rotating the blue cylinder, tighten the screw using the yellow-handled wrench. Attach the blue pillow to the board. Then, remove the Velcro straps and open the pillow. Set the abduction protractor plate to the desired position according to the patient's comfort. For external rotation, a general starting place is between 30 and 50 degrees. Position the patient on the blue pillow so that their upper arm is resting on top of the blue cylinder. Oftentimes, placing a pillow under the patient's head will increase their comfort. Open the blue hook and loop straps on the wrist stabilizer. Place the patient's hand in the wrist stabilizer so that their thumb is facing their head. Tighten each of the blue straps on the wrist stabilizer. For patient comfort, extend the wrist stabilizer to the longest position possible. The patient's upper arm will be parallel with the blue cylinder and their elbow will be pointing towards the round cam. To adjust the horizontal adduction, use the range limiter under the patient's shoulder. The patient's elbow should be parallel with or higher than the patient's shoulder. Instruct the patient to use a belt or a long 2-inch strap in order to ease themselves into a shoulder stretch. Remind the patient to keep their fingers and hand relaxed as they ease into an external rotation stretch. When the patient is coming out of their external rotation stretch, they should use their assistive strap. The patient may do this while taking short breaks during their external rotation stretches. As the patient progresses, they will increase their abduction by 5-degree increments using their abduction protractor plate. When the patient has finished their external rotation stretch, they will come back to a neutral position and loosen the blue straps on their wrist stabilizer. They will then remove their arm from the wrist stabilizer. When applying tension for the external rotation stretch, use the enclosed flathead screwdriver and increase tension at the most distal strut closest to the hand. When ready to progress to overhead flexion, use the yellow-handled hex wrench to loosen the screw on the blue cylinder. Externally rotate the blue cylinder to 45 degrees. Retighten the screw. Then, increase shoulder abduction to approximately 150 degrees on the abduction protractor plate. When stretching into overhead shoulder flexion, the patient's elbow will need to be straightened to a comfortable position. This is done using the yellow-handled hex wrench and loosening the screw at the mechanical elbow. When stretching in overhead flexion, the mechanical arm should outline the patient's arm. Have the patient place their hand in the white wrist stabilizer. Fasten the blue straps. Attach a belt or a long 2-inch strap to assist the patient into a stretch. Placing a pillow under the head will increase the patient's comfort. Have the patient ease into a stretched position. To increase the tension for an overhead stretch, use the flathead screwdriver and increase tension in the strut that is closest to the patient's shoulder. To convert the shoulder unit to internal rotation, use the yellow handle hex wrench. Loosen the screw near the blue cylinder and externally rotate 45 degrees. Retighten the screw. Next, loosen the screw at the mechanical elbow and rotate the arm 180 degrees. Finally, internally rotate the wrist stabilizer so that it is pointing towards the hip. Have the patient lay on the blue pad and put a pillow under their head for added comfort. Open the blue straps on the wrist stabilizer and place the patient's hand so that the thumb is facing their body. Tighten each of the 3 blue straps. Increase the horizontal adduction using the range limiter so that the patient's elbow is even with or higher than their shoulder. In order to remove the Dynasplint, have the patient bring their arm back to the neutral position and open all 3 blue straps. They can slide their hand out. Providing a proper and comfortable fit along with scheduled follow-ups will ensure the best outcome for your patients.